Of state, head of government, I need criticism. I need to be told where the government is going wrong.
Greetings to Guyanese around the world. Welcome to Public Scrutiny. More than 25,000 overseas Guyanese returned to Guyana to celebrate 50 years of independence in May. They provided a much-needed boost to the economy, but that was not sustainable. The Guyana economy remains sluggish. Guyana, the third smallest country in South America, is rich in natural resources, arable land, and mineral wealth, but lacks the human and financial capital to foster sustainable economic growth and development. After 50 years of independence, Guyana remains the third poorest country in the Western Hemisphere and the second most corrupt in the region, with low literacy rates, poor educational standards, high levels of poverty, and the highest suicide rate, and the highest rate of alcohol consumption per capita in the region, along with staggering youth unemployment. Guyanese living abroad have long contributed by sending barrels, consumables, and remittances of $450 million per year to sustain family and friends. When the new APNU-AFC coalition attained power in 2015, a cross-section of Guyanese living abroad was optimistic and excited. But euphoria has turned into disillusionment. Over the past months, many in Guyanese diaspora have expressed disappointment and disenchantment with the administration's approach to engaging the diaspora. Here are some comments from Dr. Narain, Dr. Jadawpat, and Dr. Blackman.
Various governments in Guyana have not utilized the diaspora effectively. Perhaps they don't know how to do it, or they're reluctant to do it, but the diaspora is here.
I don't think you need a symposium for that. You need to send them back to university, probably.
Or we need another Pago parade to see the crowd, right?
Yes.
But I don't believe that they have utilized the diaspora effectively, except for when they want some money from us. But we need to really have a session of engagement with the diaspora.
I see that.
You have to develop your mathematics. And if you want to develop your mathematics, you have to engage your diaspora who have the skills and the expertise.
In a recent interview, the president also stated clearly that he welcomes criticism.
I can't do without criticism. No government can do without criticism. I don't want people telling me, oh, everything is going fine, everything is going good. The state, head of government, I need criticism. I need to be told where the government is going wrong.
Now here is Mr. Wayne Ford to comply with President Granger's request.
His Excellency President Granger, Minister Carl Greenidge, members of the Guyanese Diaspora, fellow concerned Guyanese. Many of us in the diaspora would like to see the new administration in Guyana succeed. This presentation is being delivered with the express purpose of so doing, along with the following. First, to comply with President Granger's request for public scrutiny and a fair and candid feedback. Second, to address the dilatory approach, lack of transparency, and the lack of responsiveness by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, namely Minister Carl Greenidge. Third, to advise the administration of its flawed approach to diaspora engagement. And once again, to offer assistance in the area of the breadth and depth of diaspora engagement and policy formulation and implementation. When government succeeds, the people of Guyana win. We all win. Women, children, seniors, youth, the poor, the uneducated and vulnerable groups. When poverty is reduced, education improved, wages increase, greater job opportunities created, institutions strengthened, all Guyanese win. This is change we can embrace. When the diaspora is effectively engaged through a robust institution with proactive policies, a much better life will be created for all Guyanese. These are our common dreams and aspirations. We embrace engagement, opportunity, transparency, participation, and inclusion. These are the mediating principles of democratic societies all around the world. Guyana should not be different. We would like to see the APNU-AFC coalition enter a second term in 2020. Over the past 14 months, the administration has excelled in cleaning up cities and environs and has accomplished some of the first 100-day objectives. But we have serious concerns about the trajectory of public administration and governance in the homeland over the past 14 months. And in particular, we're concerned about the lack of policy formulation for us in the diaspora, the lack of diaspora institution, and the lack of transparency in diaspora affairs. So let's begin. The APNU 2015 manifesto articulated the following: setting up diaspora desk offices at embassies and high commissions in New York, London, and the Caribbean. Why hasn't this materialized? At the first sitting of the 11th Parliament on June 10, 2015, President Granger stated that we shall propose policies that provide opportunities for local entrepreneurs and investors in their huge diaspora to develop our abundant natural resources. Over the past 14 months, there have been 40 sittings of the 11th Parliament. There was no bill introduced for diaspora affairs, no legislation proposed, no budgetary allocation, no commitment or committee hearing, no dialogue on diaspora affairs except when Gail Teixeira of the opposition asked Card Greenwich why there were budget cuts to the Guyana consulate in New York, which has the largest Guyanese diaspora in the world. The administration must change course with respect to diaspora engagement. This will be critical in 2020. On July 18, 2015, more than 1 year ago, Minister Rupnarayan promised publicly on the Ron Bob Semple radio program that he would develop concrete mechanisms and a structured engagement for the diaspora. Minister Rupnarayan, please give us the update on the diaspora progress on this initiative. In June 2015, more than 1 year ago, Minister Cathy Hughes promised publicly on the Ron Bob Semple show also that she too would establish a diaspora desk at the Ministry of Tourism. Update us on your progress, please. During a visit to New York and DC in September 2015, Card Greenwich stated that he would be pushing for greater diaspora involvement. Minister Greenwich, please tell us in the diaspora how your plans are progressing.
Ministers of the Guyana government have been consistent in making promises to the Guyanese diaspora. It would be redeeming to see the execution of these promises and impressive to see implementation. In the early 1960s, thousands of Guyanese started leaving Guyana to seek opportunities in foreign lands. The trend has continued. Today, Guyana has the highest emigration rate of skilled labor in the region, the highest migration of university graduates in the world. So much so that the World Bank pointed out that Guyana has an inadequately educated workforce that impedes progress along with other deficiencies, including poor infrastructure and poor electrical grid. Guyana has long suffered from brain drain, where the best and brightest have migrated to other countries. It is estimated that there are 1.5 million first and second generation Guyanese living overseas. Here is Mr. Ford on the issue.
The brain drain, the exodus over the 5 decades has created serious gaps and deficiencies in social, economic, and political structures in Guyana. Today, Guyana has negative population growth. No country can progress and develop on such a weak foundation. The importance of the diaspora, therefore, in capacity building in Guyana can never be overstated. Remittances in excess of $400 million US each year account for 17 to 23% of gross domestic product. There are more than 375 hometown associations in the diaspora that engage in small projects and other works in Guyana. Guyanese in the diaspora have long provided substantial financial and other support for political campaigns and candidates in Guyana. Guyanese living abroad have the expertise, exposure, and experience, as well as the human and financial capital to move our country forward. So what's the problem? There's no strategy to engage the diaspora effectively. The economy remains sluggish, GDP has declined, value-added taxes have declined, and the adoption of a long-term sustained development plan, as outlined in the manifesto, has not materialized. There's no comprehensive economic development plan. Many loans in Guyana are non-performing or in default according to the IMF and Bank of Guyana. Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry pointed out that businesses under the umbrella of the chamber are experiencing a 30 to 40% decline. Remittances from the diaspora have declined to 417 million US, down from 450 million in previous years, according to Minister Jordan. Yet there's no strategic plan to engage the diaspora. Guyanese and Guyana remain divided along racial lines. Half of the electorate would like to see the Granger administration fail. Jagdeo has told his constituents to stay on the sidelines and not invest. And Guyanese and the diaspora are also split down the middle when it comes to supporting the new government. A house divided cannot stand. So, President Granger, you're playing with half a team at half impulse. It is therefore imperative to commit to crafting effective diaspora policies and create a robust institution to harness the full power and potential of the Guyanese diaspora and get more boots on the ground and more hands on deck. If not, we can just employ the good old Baishanlings to rape and exploit our natural resources.
Barbadian company has invested very heavily in the Rupununi, and we're looking at Chinese investments in agriculture.
Guyana does not have an institution or a ministry dedicated to its diaspora. It does not have a sub-ministry, it does not have a quasi-ministry, or even an organization, a system or structure or mechanism dedicated to its diaspora. President Granger sums it up accurately.
In the country, however, you are working with the diaspora, you have a system in place, mechanisms in place to do that?
We have procedures, I wouldn't call it a system.
President Granger, 6 months ago in January 2016, a package of 5 draft proposals were hand-delivered to Minister of Business Dominic Gaskin in Guyana. These drafts included the formation of a diaspora organization, convening a diaspora conference during the Jubilee celebrations, issuing diaspora Jubilee bonds, developing strategies to increase remittances, and conducting a series of diaspora public discussions to alleviate tensions. These drafts were also sent to Minister Greenidge, Minister Roopnaraine, and Minister Jordan. Minister Gaskin had promised to deliver the 5-part draft package to President Granger back in January. Today, 6 months later, there's no organization, no system, no mechanism, no strategy, and no policy for engaging the diaspora. And most unfortunately, there's been no response to the draft proposals from the administration.
President David Granger on Monday, July 11th, officially established the Department of National Events under the Ministry of the Presidency.
Now, we have to rethink our national priorities and important policy decisions. We have 15 ministries, 10 public enterprises, and 41 statutory bodies. But there's no diaspora institution. Now we have a Department of National Events. Why isn't there a Department of the Diaspora under the Ministry of the Presidency as was recommended by the IOM strategy proposal? More than 26 countries have diaspora ministries, including Haiti, Mali, Dominica, India, Israel, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Armenia, not Guyana. More than 17 countries have sub-ministry diaspora institutions, including Ghana, Mexico, Peru, Philippines, but not Guyana. There are over 500 institutions in 137 countries that have to do with diaspora. Guyana has nothing. Guyanese in the diaspora send hundreds of millions in remittances to Guyana each year. But we have no institution or organization for the diaspora. Overseas Guyanese cannot vote or hold certain public offices. There are 2,000 countries around the world with overseas voting. Overseas Guyanese have no representation at any level of government, and their offers to assist in capacity building are ignored. Indeed, Guyana is divided in 2 halves, one in north and one in south, as President Granger has articulated. President Granger, we have some serious bridge building to do. The campaign for 2020 has to start now.
Overseas Guyanese are disheartened and disappointed by the lethargic approach by the administration in responding to proposals and recommendations, or even simply acknowledging them. Here is the story. On Saturday, January 16 through Monday, January 18 of this year, the Center for International Migration and Integration held consultations with members of the Guyanese diaspora at the Guyana Consulate in New York. Similar consultations were conducted in Trinidad, Toronto, Canada, and the UK. The purpose of these consultations was to craft a diaspora engagement strategy proposal for the government of Guyana. The project was funded by the International Organization on Migration. In February, the IOM in Guyana delivered the Diaspora Engagement Strategy proposal to Minister Carl Greenidge at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The document contained two key recommendations. One, to share the Diaspora Engagement Strategy proposal with the Guyanese diaspora to solicit input, feedback, and suggestions about the proposed strategy. Two, to establish a diaspora organization under the Office of the President. But Minister Greenidge has never disclosed or shared the document with the Guyanese diaspora, as was recommended by the IOM. Here is Mr. Ford to address the issue.
President Granger, in the interest of transparency and accountability, kindly address us in the diaspora and inform us as to why this document has never been revealed or disclosed by any member of the administration after 5 months. And why, after recent visits to the New York diaspora by 4 senior members of the administration, there was no reference to the strategy document by Minister Patterson, Hughes, Ramjatan, or Gaskin. Minister Greenidge, during your visits to DC and New York in September, October 2015 timeframe, you asked the diaspora to hold you accountable and give you honest feedback. Minister Greenidge, here goes. Since September 2015, there were numerous attempts made via email and international calls to engage and assist the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in creating a robust diaspora institution, but your office has never agreed to hold discussions. Requests were made to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to obtain a copy of the Diaspora Engagement Strategy document submitted by the IOM, but there was no response. Your office has never responded. Requests were made to your office for a diaspora policy statement, and there was no response. Diaspora draft proposals for creating a diaspora engagement organization, Jubilee bonds, convening a diaspora conference in Guyana were sent to your office. There was never a response. Requests were made to schedule a meeting with you to discuss diaspora engagement 10 months ago. Still no response. In January and May 2016, 2 in-person visits were made to your office in Guyana. Still no response. Minister Greenidge, diaspora engagement is a partnership between the diaspora, the government institutions, and civil society. Diaspora engagement is a relationship that's built on trust. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has under its portfolio the responsibility of dealing with the diaspora issues and concerns. We have serious concerns in this area, Minister Greenidge.
Recently, President Granger expressed the need for the diaspora expertise in Guyana.
Most of them probably earn more than the average Guyanese, and therefore they have capital to invest. And secondly, they have acquired expertise. I appealed to them on those 2 grounds. One was capital and 2 was expertise.
On the issue, Mr. Ford.
Lack of technical know-how is the primary reason for ineffective diaspora engagement. The first set of expertise that the administration needs from the diaspora is how to develop a strategic plan to proactively engage the diaspora and how to shape diaspora policies, create systems, and a structure to engage the diaspora effectively. That's where it must start. Effective diaspora engagement is not achieved through splintered, piecemeal approaches and ad hoc, fragmented events with no strategic plan. Having one event in Toronto and having another 8 months later in New York is not effective strategy. We can and must do better than this. Minister Jordan, it is an indisputable fact that budget allocation signifies the importance of any program on the national agenda. There have been 2 budgets passed in an 8-month period, and none included appropriations for diaspora policy programs. The next budget should include appropriations for diaspora policy promotion, implementation, and administration, like Mexico, Haiti, Philippines, Ghana, and India, and many other countries. We can move Guyana forward if we work together with transparency, collaboration, accountability, and more. Together we can build capacity if we build trust. We can rebuild our country if we build bridges through open government and inclusion. Asking Guyanese to return home and invest where there are no policies, no systems, and no structure in place to facilitate and administer the process is like building a bridge to nowhere. Just calling on Guyanese to return home and invest did not work in the 70s. Utilizing a similar approach will not work either, because diaspora investors and entrepreneurs face administrative barriers. The difficulty of doing business in Guyana, concerns about personal safety, corruption, entrenched attitudes and resentment by non-immigrants. These are real challenges. The administration must confront these obstacles and initiate reforms. Effective diaspora engagement can work if there's commitment by the leadership and a strategy based on best practices. We have to develop policies that encourage diaspora entrepreneurship and incentives for everyone, like the way in which India has developed policies that encourage diaspora entrepreneurship in IT, like Israel, Ethiopia, and Azerbaijan that raised billions through diaspora bonds, like Jamaica that paid one-way airfare for returnees, or Dominica that used its diaspora to engage in developing a curriculum for its university, and Ethiopia that wooed its investors with special privileges, and China that it created a 1,000 talent initiative. Policies have to be developed for long-term, short-term, and virtual returnees. We can develop special programs focused on women and young entrepreneurs, and special programs and incentives for second-generation Guyanese entrepreneurs from the diaspora. We can mobilize the diaspora in 6 thematic ways: diaspora direct investment in capital markets, knowledge transfer, nostalgic trade, tourism, volunteerism, and advocacy. But first, we must develop the legal, regulatory, and institutional framework for effective diaspora engagement. We must encourage creative partnerships between the diaspora and government, civil society organizations, and the private sector. We must forge a new beginning and adopt 21st century approaches to diaspora engagement. And most of all, we need diaspora inclusion, participation, and collaboration in the diaspora policy formulation, and we need representation at the cabinet level.
While President Granger has created a new department for national events, he also stated that he is not committed to diaspora investor plans and has no concrete plans for a diaspora investor package.
Be encouraged to offer some form of incentive or concessions to encourage members of the diaspora to engage in your plans for economic development. What would some of these incentives and concessions look like?
I haven't committed myself to any concessions, but usually people search for tax holidays, waivers on equipment, and of course, the ability to repatriate their profits. At this point in time, I cannot confirm a package. The Minister of Business has been in negotiation with some of the potential investors, but let's see what they're asking for.
In June 2015, it was declared before the National Assembly that policies would be developed for the huge diaspora. In June 2016, it was announced that there was no commitment to any incentives for diaspora investors, no concrete plans, and no system for engaging the diaspora. Please, President Granger, address us in the diaspora and bridge the disconnect with these two diametrically opposed positions. And in the interest of transparency, President Granger, please share with us in the diaspora who counsels or advises the administration on diaspora affairs, particularly in shaping future policy in diaspora policy process. And on behalf of the 1.5 million first and second generation Guyanese living overseas, I'm requesting His Excellency to address us in the diaspora and clarify the administration's diaspora policy position and the strategy plan to engage the diaspora, including the status of the IOM document presented to Minister Greenidge. Mr. President, we urge you to encourage Honorable Minister Greenidge to disclose and publish the Diaspora Engagement Strategy Policy document that was meant to be shared with the diaspora for our input and feedback, as was recommended by the IOM 5 months ago. And to all Guyanese, under Guyana's Access to Information Act number 21 of 2011, please contact the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and request your free copy of the Diaspora Engagement Strategy document. Here's the contact information. We're hopeful that Minister Carl Greenidge and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs subscribe to transparency and open government and would never send the wrong message and the wrong signal to any member of the Guyanese diaspora. And we look forward to His Excellency's address to the diaspora on these matters of grave concern and these critical issues.